Hey there, and welcome to Weekly Dose of Dano. I'm your host, Dano, and I'm thrilled to have you here. Please get comfortable, feel at home, and thank you for being a part of my Positivity Posse. For over 3 years, we've been honored to provide you with an hour of pure magic filled with captivating stories and insightful conversations. Thank you for joining us as we explore the depths of the human mindset with our amazing guests, ranging from renowned celebrities to everyday heroes with stories of perseverance. If you want to feel inspired and pick up some tips that you can use in your own journey, then you've come to the right place. Solidify your spot in the Positivity Posse by following me on social media, which you can find in the About tab of the show. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's episode because your journey to greatness starts right here, right now. I promise you, if you stay for 10 minutes, you're going to stay for the entire episode because we have Antonio McKay here, and I'm so honored and grateful to be able to bring him to you, my Positivity Posse, because this story is absolutely incredible and amazing. So, Antonio, what do you have to say to the Positivity Posse before we get started today?
Cheers and salutations, Positivity Posse. I love the name.
It's just such an honor and joy to have this professional here and to really show us what it takes to be very successful in the industry, because Antonio has been in over 25 theatrical productions. And that's not even including the television and, the pre-recorded side of everything. So we're going to dive really deep into his story. I hope you all have your questions ready because Antonio is going to give us the golden nuggets on what it takes to be successful, not only this industry, but just life in general. I've been reading a ton of books, and something that's been just sticking out to me, I think I brought it up last week as well, but I'm going to bring it up again, is the art of time management. And I've been speaking with a few individuals, whether they're friends or professionals. It's so important to be able to manage and track our time, because if we don't have that direction or we don't have the goals written down that we want to go achieve and we want to accomplish in this world, then we can get lost in limbo and just be kind of aimless. And that's not really going to get us to where we need to go. If you're in that place, there's nothing wrong with that. My recommendation to you is to just look at what you're doing with your time, because that's going to tell you everything that you need to know if you're headed in the right direction or not. Even if we are or not on the right path and filling up all the time that we do have to be dedicated towards our dreams and our goals, then that's okay. You got to give yourself a little bit of slack in the beginning to say, okay, I've seen that I'm not going down the right path. This is what I need to do to change it. And once you do that time audit on yourself to really see what's working, what's not working, that is going to be, I think, the biggest change that you could possibly make. Because with all of those negative habits or that empty space that we do have in that time audit that we do for ourselves, we are able to replace them with positive habits and things that will really serve us to really go towards our goals. So I think I've talked enough for right now, and it's time for Antonio to come onto the show. We're going to start off strong.
Let's go.
Let's do it. So, Antonio, I know that when it comes to life and everybody's life, not everything is going to be rainbows and sunshines and butterflies. And since we're talking about the path of what we need to do to get to where we want to be, has there ever been a point where you questioned your path? And if so, what gave you the energy and the confidence to keep going on your path?
Yeah, I questioned my past almost there. About 10 minutes ago, I questioned it. Here's what keeps you going, okay? It's something my dad told me a long time ago, and I still remember it. He's passed now, rest his soul. But he said, the only time you lose is when you give up. And that is a true proverb that everybody should follow, especially in the acting business. I just lost you, and there you go. Especially in the acting business, because you find that just when you think, okay, I can't take it anymore, I can't take this rejection and another audition and another people telling me no and no and no, I'm quit, I'm done, I'm gonna go back to where I came from. And the next day, phone call would come and you got the role, and all of a sudden, your life is bright again, and the butterflies come out.
And that's when you find that extra spark and joy for life, because everything that you've worked for, you actually got it. And I know it's so easy to
Right.
get down on ourselves. And you just brought up the idea of getting no's and no's and no's. And I want to touch on that a little bit. So, how many
Sure.
no's did you have to get in order to get that first yes?
Okay, now I'm about to tell you a story that's going to totally contradict what I just said. Okay.
Okay.
But here's what happened. I was blessed when I got to, well, first thing, I went to New York. I left after I graduated from Chicago. I went to New York, and the third day I was there, the agent saw me and put me in front of casting director for old soap opera, Search for Tomorrow. I think it was on its last year. Anyway, I got the role. I was a gang leader, and I was just, yeah, I gave it to him. And I was like 19 years old. I got my role. I was like, oh, this is easy. This ain't hard. So I said, I'm going to stay in New York for a while. So I was on the show for about 2 months. You know, got a pretty decent paycheck. So I thought this is going to be easy. Okay, so once that show was over, I just waited, you know, went around, do my auditions, went to all the parties, had all the fun. And then about 3 months later, I realized I have no money and I have no way of figuring out how I'm going to get any. So then I started to panic. So I said, if I'm going to starve, I am not going to starve in this cold ass city, excuse my language. So that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to go to Los Angeles. So then I headed out to Los Angeles. And again, you know, you sit down there, yeah, I had a few dollars. I said, okay, now what am I going to do now? Yeah. My agent was connected to to an LA agent. So I got with her, and then I auditioned for a movie. Surprisingly enough, it was the lead for a movie, and I got it. It wasn't a great movie, but I got the lead. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is going to be a lot easier than I thought. I won't have to wait tables. I won't have to do this. I won't have to do that. Did the movie. Movie didn't go anywhere. It was a flop, but still, I was the star of a movie, my very first audition. So I'm thinking to myself, I did good in New York, I did good in LA so far. Everything's fine. I auditioned for a couple of movies. I was getting them, you know, smaller parts, but still get them. TV shows, I got guest star roles. Everything was rolling. But this is what I learned about Hollywood. There is a time where there is a type that is very popular.
Mhm.
And at the time I went to Hollywood, I'm half Jamaican and half Colombian, so I'm Jamaican. I don't know what. But
Yeah,
I'm born
hey,
in
it's a
America.
good mix to
Yeah,
have. Yeah.
it's really mixed. Yes, but my type at that time was the late 80s, 88, 89. My type was really in. It was the time of Miami Vice and Philip Michael Thomas, and the singers were like Prince and Michael Jackson. It was all these sort of quote pretty boys. Even the Caucasian guys were like Rob Lowe, and all these guys were what was hot at that time. So
Yeah.
I fit into that mold at that time as a young quote. They tried to make me a heartthrob and all that stuff like that. And so everything was great. But there's always that moment when you realize, wait a minute, they're not calling me as often. What's
Mhm.
going on? And you start to see the shift. My type was no longer in anymore. They're looking
Mhm.
for a rougher type, Wesley Snipes or, Danny Trejo or, rougher looking guys, tougher looking guys. And once you fade out of that, and once you reach that sort of in between teen heartthrob and adult actor, you're in that no man's land.
Yeah.
And you wind up pretty much broke. Can't get a job. So I went at least two and a half years, no job. Audition, nothing. You
Wow.
know? Yeah. So I went from feast to famine in a
Yeah,
matter of
in 2 and a half
matter of
years.
a year, 2.5 years. Yeah.
So, can you really talk about that moment and well, I guess it wasn't a moment, it was 2.5 years, right? But
Two
can
and a half
you
years.
talk about what you actually learned about yourself and how did you take that experience of, going broke or maybe not eating as well as you used to going, to where you are right now being very successful? What did you learn about yourself during that time and how did you apply it in your life?
Well, I learned that I had perseverance because despite everything that was happening to me, I never forgot that there were some good times. So when you remember that there were some good times, what did I do during those good times? How did that energy keep up? And you realize if you can get that energy back, you almost can, you know, turn your destiny around. You know what I mean? It's a lot of it is mental. And a lot of times when people are failing or at one thing, they start to go down on themselves and think they're no good at anything. And it becomes a domino effect and, you know, we go into oblivion. But instead of that, I just thought, okay, I made it once. I'm going to make it again. I'm not going to give up. Eventually, things are going to turn around. And that's pretty much what happened.
I love that. And thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that too, because a lot of people nowadays are very afraid to show kind of like the vulnerability side or their failures too, because
Mhm.
with the addition of social media, they think that everything needs to be, oh, I'm the best this, I'm the best that. Look at me, look at me, look at me.
Exactly.
So thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that too, because it does get real out here and it does things won't always happen in our favor. So thank you for sharing that. And I kind of want to talk about the lessons that you've learned whether they're great or bad or everything in between. Um, with your work as a writer and an actor, are
Mhm.
there any messages that you would like to portray through your work, through writing or acting that you need people to understand through whatever media that you provide to the world?
Okay. One of the blessings of some of the stuff that I've written and starred in is that it's not one thing I hate about, especially about this city, Hollywood, that is stereotypes. And on television and the movies and in literature and in music and everything, it's full of stereotypes. And people want to pigeonhole people, you know. If you're black, you have to act one way. If you're Latino, you have to act another way. If you're Caucasian, you have to act another way. You know, everybody has us in a group, and all of us don't act that way. You know what I mean? There are exceptions. We're all our own person. We're not a monolith, but we've been turned into a monolith. If you watch TV shows, if you watch movies, you can see, okay, this is coming up now. Oh, okay. Oh, the black guy is going to be gay. Or, oh, there you go. The white, oh, shoot, there you go. The Latino guy's going to rob. Oh, yeah. It just goes on and on. And you think by now it would end, but it's still there. They may go into a different stereotype, but they still want to pigeonhole people. They won't allow us just to be people. So what
Mhm.
I've tried to do in my writing, and especially for stuff that I can write for myself, is create roles where people don't normally automatically think of me or a person like me in that role. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I remember I had a girlfriend who was a beautiful girl, and I remember she went for a role as a lawyer, and they rejected her. And the word came back to her agent, well, she's just too beautiful. She's not believable as a lawyer. And I said, well, that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. You know,
Yeah.
why do people have to look a certain way for you to accept them as that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, it's going to the lowest common denominator. You're appealing to what you think majority of people are going to accept because you're lazy. They don't try, you know,
Mhm.
and that is what I resent the most about it. So that if there's anything I want to try and defeat, it's stereotypical roles and just try to bust all these stereotypes, make you realize that people are just people, man. And
Yeah.
they can be anything that they really want to be. I know that sounds a little cliche, but it's true.
But it's true, exactly, and I know I've had my share of that growing up too. When I was growing up,
Mhm.
I was kind of in that happy medium of, like, being too black for the
Yep,
white kids and too white for the black kids. Because 'cause I'm Puerto
yeah,
Rican, so I found
yeah,
myself in that happy medium, but you're just so right. When I went to
mhm,
my just growing up in the area that I am, I grew up in the hood, and I would
right.
go and talk to people that were in surrounding communities and areas, and they would always say, "Oh, you're from Camden? You're from there? Like, you don't act
That's
like
it.
it." And it's like,
Right.
stop trying to put me in that box because we are,
Yeah,
like Antonio said, just very multidimensional, and we're not just one trick ponies. We don't always do the negative things that the
right.
stereotypes always
Yeah,
provide. So thank you
yeah.
so much for doing that because especially now when everything can be seen as divisive and trying to tear us
Mhm.
apart, you are being that change that we need to see and bringing people together more now than ever. So I
Yeah,
just want to ask you one more question about your
mhm.
your personal journey, and we're
Sure.
going to really get into your writing and your directing and your acting in
Mhm.
the next segment. But I know, like I said before, you've been over. I mean, you've had countless projects. I can't keep up with all of them if I'm going to be honest with you. But
Mhm.
that is very demanding. Trying to change yourself for all these different roles and your approach to your roles. So, can you talk about I know for me, I mentioned earlier inside of the program that I'm still
Mhm.
learning how to develop my time and do my time management. So, can you talk about how these different roles shape your approach to each of these roles that you're going to be getting, whether they're now or further along in the future?
Oh, okay. The first one thing I learned from an acting teacher, I didn't learn much, but I learned this, is that acting, you can approach acting two ways. You can either see a character on a page and take all that character and then make yourself into that character on the page. Or you can take those facets of the character that you see on the page and put them on you. And that character becomes you rather than you becoming the character.
Hmm.
You know, it sounds similar, but it's not really. It's what they say is the difference sometimes between an actor and a movie star. You know, somebody like let me think of let's say Dustin Hoffman, just to throw out somebody. He always becomes the character. He's lauded as a great actor because he becomes the character. Okay, but sometimes you will see no trace of Dustin in the character itself.
Hmm.
So he becomes an actor. Now, actually, he's a bad example because he is a movie star too. But I was thinking more, so he's a bad example. But I'm thinking more of guys you see and you say, oh, that's a good actor, but I don't know their name. You know what I
Okay.
mean? A lot of
Yeah.
people you see, I don't know their name, because, you know, whereas somebody like Clint Eastwood or Denzel Washington or, you know what I mean? Oh, wow, we know what that is. That's Denzel. And you notice that when you're watching these movies, you very rarely will call, oh, John Blow is going to do that. No, you say, oh, Denzel's about to beat their ass because you still see the actor. You still see him. He's a movie star. He's bigger than life. And that's
Mhm.
what makes him a movie star. That's what people pay to see. Clint Eastwood was like that. Burt Reynolds, Tom Cruise is like that. Brad Pitt, all those guys, they're bigger than life. So people actually will downgrade them and say, well, they're not really acting, but they are. They've just taken the character that's on the page and made it into themselves, which actually, to me, makes it more interesting. Because other than that, you could have anybody. There are a lot of decent actors around. You could have
Mhm.
anybody do the role. So that's what the kind of actor I try to be. I try to make the character myself rather than me become the character.
I
So if you
love
see
that.
the yeah.
Yeah, I love that, and thank you so much for sharing that too, Antonio. We just have to hear a word from our first sponsors, and
Okay.
if you guys are watching, please like and share this content to any actors or anybody that you think needs this content. And Antonio, I'm going to give you a little bit of a freebie question right here because I'm going to ask you this
Oh,
question after we come back from our break, but you get a little bit of
okay.
time to think about it. So right now, we just talked about going into a role, but since you want to bring up some actors, I know somebody like
Mhm.
Austin Butler when he did his role. he was playing Elvis, or somebody like, Heath Ledger, who couldn't separate himself from the Joker. We're going to talk
Right.
about the tail end of that, on what practices do you do, whether it's meditation or taking a walk in the park or just hanging out with family. You're going to answer that, on what you do to unemotionally attach yourself from that character. And when we come back, that's going to be your first question. So everybody, don't go anywhere. Like, share, and do whatever you have to do to raise your vibrations, because we're here for another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV. Thank you, everybody, for being here. So, Antonio, you already know what the question is. What do you do emotionally to kind of unattach yourself from the roles after you're finished your projects?
Okay, so as I was saying earlier, there's always a piece of the character that stays with you, because you have not totally turned into that character. Remember, I was saying I turned the character into me. So a lot of the character is still me. So I don't have to change anything. I just have to get rid of certain things that I may find distasteful in my own life and throw it to the side. But it's a lot easier when I haven't totally immersed myself in the character so much that I can't shred it off. I'm glad you brought up Austin Butler, who I think was fantastic in that movie.
Yeah.
I thought that movie, he blew me away. So, as Elvis, but he was Elvis for 2 years, and he had nobody else around him. It was during the pandemic, and he was in Australia, and all he was doing was focusing on Elvis. He no family, no girlfriend, he was just stuck absorbing everything about Elvis. So when you are that much into a character, yes, it's really difficult to get rid of it, because, okay, I've been this guy for 2 years before the filming, and then all during the filming, and then you have to go promote the movie. So I don't want to get rid of all of it. So that's why he talked like Elvis for 4 years, and people were making fun of him and stuff, but I totally understood it. I have never had that problem, because maybe I'm just not a good actor, but I just never have put myself in that situation, because I think it's a kind of a dangerous thing when you're playing somebody like Heath Ledger was playing the Joker, and it became so much that he people on the set said he just was acting weird and he couldn't get rid of that character.
Yeah.
So he became suicidal in his mind, and the character and the actor became confused. It was a tragic ending.
Yeah.
But I know actors who go both sides, but one of my good friends and my old mentors is Fred. Do you know who Fred Williamson is?
No, I'm not familiar.
Okay, Fred Williamson was a blaxploitation star back in the 70s. Real good-looking guy. Still thinks he can get all the girls and shoot all the guns. He's like close to 80 now. But
money talks, right?
Money talks, right? And he taught me that, the role should never be bigger than you. Okay, it should become a part of you, but never bigger than you.
Yeah.
And I just sort of took his advice as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
I find that it's a lot, and your acting, to me anyway, it helps my acting be natural. That's another one of my pet peeves. You want to get me mad if I see acting on screen, even if it's myself. If I see actors on screen and it doesn't look natural, it drives me nuts, and my skin starts to crawl. I can't stand it. I can't stand when I can see somebody acting. I'm sure you've had that experience. You're watching something and say, "Oh God," you can see this guy overacting, and and I find that by making the character as close to me as possible, I avoid that.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the difference between like the Hallmark and the Lifetime movies versus what you see in theaters. I think that exactly kind of summed it up, because you'll see that these people are trying a little bit too hard, and then it ends up being easy and corny. But I agree with you 100%. And even it's terrible that these things do happen. But one point that you just mentioned that I want to touch on, and I'm just kind of going to bring it to everything in life, is don't let all of these outside events or outside people, don't become so emotionally attached to them that they start to take over your life. And I never talk about this on the show, but I'm going to bring it up right now, is the idea of politics and religion.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, these people get so engrossed and encompassed in it that they think it's a part of them, but it's really not. There are other people out there,
Of
and
course not.
focusing on the external. So please always remember that you are not attached to these labels and these things that go on in the outside world. Just remember that you are what makes you just this great person and this great being in life. So thank you so much for bringing that up, Antonio.
Exactly.
I think a lot of people need to
Exactly.
hear that. Um,
Well
and
said.
now, since we are really diving into your professional career, this is kind of a
Mhm.
two-part question. So
Okay.
you've been in front of the camera and you've been behind the camera. So can you talk about how each role and each position kind of sharpens the other? So how
Okay.
does being behind the camera sharpen you? You know how that goes.
Okay. Okay. Well, my experience behind the camera has mostly been writing. I assistant directed on one project a while ago, but I'm going to dip my toes into full directing soon. I'm just trying to get myself prepared. But
Yeah.
mostly it's been writing, and writing has always come easy to me. You know, when I was young, I won writing contests, short story contests, and all that. And because I'm an only child, I guess I have a very vivid imagination. So I've always been able to come up with these concepts and creating things. I'll meet people and I say, "Well, that person would be great if he could play this thing, or she could do that, or she could do that." I set up stories in my mind, and that's pretty much how you know the idea flows from that.
Mhm.
Um, it's the writing has benefited the acting because, especially when I'm acting in stuff that I've written, it's really because I know the character already,
Yeah.
and I already fit the character to my strengths, or to another actor I know I'll fit the character to their strengths, because they'll say, "Well, this is the best role I ever had," not realizing why they're so good in the role. They're good in the role because I tailored the character to their strengths,
Mhm.
and that's why you see a lot of directors and producers work with the same actors all the time, and writers, because they know that if I write this role, Quentin Tarantino knows if he writes this role for Brad Pitt, Leo DiCaprio, he's going to make it so I know Brad can do this. So I'm going to make the character as close to this as possible. I know Leo can do this. So I'm going to make this character as close to Leo as possible.
Mhm.
Um, and that's how these guys always make these great performances. People say, "Wow, they were so great in that movie." But yeah, because they know what these guys can do, you know, and these guys excel at certain traits. No actor is perfect. Every actor has a weakness, but every actor has strengths also. So, um, because, like for instance, the series we're doing now, since I'm the main writer on the series, I know exactly how I want my character to do it.
Everybody, see, we don't just come on here to say, inspired by failure or to unleash your inner gold mine of motivation. We don't say this stuff because it sounds good. I mean, it does sound good, but
Mhm.
say it because it's the actual truth. And you
Yeah,
see
it's
that
true.
there is so much room for growth and to bounce back from your failures. And you don't have to identify with that one setback. And, who's to say that the thing that happened to you that's a setback is even a setback? That can be something that's
Right.
redirecting you and pushing you to maybe a step forward or three, and you just never know. Thank you, everybody. Happy holidays to everyone that's watching, to the viewers, to the
Happy.
audience, and to you, Antonio, as well. So now we're going to go into
Yeah.
more kind of the fun side of everything and kind of the imaginative and
Sure.
creative side. So, Antonio, in an alternate universe, let's just say, you have, or it could happen in this universe. What am I even talking about? Let's say if you had a film adapted to the story of your life, who would you want to
Mm.
play as the film or the main character for you, and why would you want that person to play as you?
That's an interesting question, because you're asking an actor that, so I would have to break it down on levels. I mean, the the 40 through 50-year-old that I could play that. The younger versions of me, wow, that's a hard one, man. I've never thought about that.
Hey, well, it might be happening sometime in the future, so you better
Yeah,
get ready for it.
yeah, I'm totally blank. I don't know, but I would have to cast for it. We have to cast for it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so there it
Wow.
is. Finally, we stumped
No,
them. There it is, everybody. We did
it's
it.
stuff on
No.
that.
And thank you. Like I said, this is just something to think about, and I've never even thought about it for myself. But that's just
Mm,
something that it's definitely possible in the future. And I
mm,
kind of want to talk about the differences of energy because I remember you mentioned the energy earlier from your
mm.
live performances and being in the theatrical world versus
Right.
film and television. So, can you talk about the major energetic differences that you've experienced? Because I know in the theatrical world you don't only perform here in the States, you've gone to Hong Kong and you've been around the world to
Right.
perform. So talk about the
Yes.
energetic differences between the two.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, when you're on stage, it's a different vibe because you have to project. You have to project, speak from the diaphragm and let it all out so the person in the back row can hear you. Whereas on screen, of course, you talk normal because they have lavalier mics that fit right here and you can hear a pin drop. So that's the biggest challenge for somebody coming from television to theater, and then vice versa. People going from theater to film, they have to learn to change their energy, change their projection. So that is the biggest difference. But the thing is, you still have to remain natural.
Mhm.
So even if you're projecting, you can't make it look like you're shouting. It has to be as natural as you can get it. That's why they say some people think theatrical acting is the hardest type because you have to keep yourself aware of all of that while you're still giving a convincing performance. So
Mhm.
it is rather difficult. And then when you're going to a foreign country, and like I said, I was in Hong Kong and I was in Japan and China. Now in Japan, especially China, English is not, the number one language.
Mhm.
Hong Kong it is though, by the way. Hong Kong they speak English, so it was okay. And
Wow.
Japan, they speak a lot of English too. But China not so much. So what you have a Chinese translator translating the show in Chinese after you do your stuff in English. It's very strange. It's a weird thing, but they seem to accept it. They liked it. So,
Hey, as
Hong
long
Kong
as
Hong Kong was easy.
yeah,
But
as long as you got your round of applause at the end, I think,
yes,
yeah, that's
exactly.
all you cared about. No, I'm just kidding. And
Exactly.
thank you for sharing that too, because I actually didn't know that they speak, I know it's not the main language like you said, but just the fact that
Yeah.
I know that they speak English now, I feel a lot more comfortable if I were to go travel over there. Um,
Oh yeah.
and
Man, you'll be fine.
yeah, and we only have a few minutes left, Antonio. And I know we need to talk about your future projects, so now is the perfect time to do that. What are some future projects that we can be anticipating and looking forward from you, whether it's 6 months from now, 3 days from now, or 1 year from now?
Okay, well, hopefully within the next 3 months, you're going to see the second half of season one of Sangre Negra, Black Blood. That'll come up, and then hopefully after that, we begin filming season two. I also have a movie that I'm trying to get sold. It's called Forbidden. It's about a singing group, and the lead singer, a female singer, gets murdered. And it's a murder mystery basically set in the music industry, and we've had a lot of good reactions to that. We have a pretty good cast assembled, including some A-listers, but again, it's a matter of you know
Yeah. Hey, isn't
getting out
everything right?
award. Yeah, and after I have I'm working with a friend of mine on a script called Quest, the Quest. and it's a sort of a female Indiana Jones kind of thing, and trying to attach Kate Beckinsale to it, and a couple of other, name actors, and trying to get that off the ground. And one of my passions was always trying to bring a new version of Zorro to it, because when I was a kid, Zorro was always my favorite superhero. I wasn't into Superman and Batman. I thought they were corny. But I loved Zorro, right? And Zorro he was always winking and making jokes, and had all the girlfriends and stuff. Like Superman, he had what's Lois Lane. They never kissed her. I never got that. So anyway, so I wanted to, I love that film, but Antonio Banderas film, one of my favorite movies. So I have a new version that we're trying to get off the ground. It's a different situation though, because you have trademarks and copyrights, and again, it all comes. You have to pay them to use the name, and it's a hassle. It's not as easy as you would think.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like you definitely have that look and the capability to play Zorro. Would you ever play him yourself?
Yeah, basically it's a three-pronged Zorro, a young one, middle-aged one, an old one, and then it's the whole thing. And they're different Zorros. They're not just one, they're different. So that's the idea. So I got fingers crossed. The gentleman I'm working with he's the head of the Zorro. What's it on? It's a organization basically. So he knows all about the character and the copyrights, and he's helping me with so he's a big help.
Beautiful. And everybody keep your eyes peeled for that. And we're going to be crossing our fingers too over here. And, I don't really like to, cross fingers to say, I hope it is going to happen, right? Because that's how we're going to manifest it. And we're going to call it into existence, into reality for you as well. And I actually have a bonus question, because I don't know why it's coming up right now. But is there any dream roles that you would actually want in your career and that you're aiming to get as a dream role?
Wow, that's a good question. My first dream role, and I don't think it's going to happen now, but my dream role is always James Bond, even though I'm not English. But that is my dream role. I've always, from the time I'm a little kid, I always loved the whole James Bond, all the movies and everything. That was when I was little, that's who I wanted to be. I don't want to be an actor. I wanted to be James Bond. Later on, I found out, he could be all sorts of stuff, because James Bond isn't real. I was wondering why he changed appearances every time I saw him. He was Sean Connery, he was Roger Moore, but that character still remained, the essence. So that is my dream role. But like I said, it's, the realistic part of me says, no, it's not going to happen. But in the back of your mind, that's still, if it'll happen,
you got the role. I mean,
dream a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, right now, I think you dress so professionally and you're looking good, my guy. So, like I said, this is definitely not out of the range, and it's not far-fetched for you as well. So we're going to call that into existence too, because I think now, as you know, with the movie industry and, television as well, we are kind of breaking out of the stereotypical types of what can be imagined as James Bond. And, look at Ariel, right? We're breaking that with Disney. So you never know. Why not? Why can't it be Antonio McKay?
Anything can happen, as I always say. Yeah. So never give up.
There it is. Never give up. And Antonio, we always wrap up the show, because we only have a few minutes left, in the same question every single time. So here's that question for you. If there's somebody right now that is maybe in their deepest, darkest times, whether they're an actor, maybe not even an actor, what advice do you have to give to the person watching in order to break out of that, negative mind space or that dark hole?
Again, persevere, and the same way you got into that negative space, you can get into the positive space. Because believe it or not, we're blessed to be on this earth, walking, talking, breathing. Look at those things and amplify them. Think about the good parts of your life and how great those parts are. And then eventually you start to feel better about yourself. And you start to have confidence in yourself. And know that if you believe it, you can do it. You may have to work a little hard. It may not be easy, but it will happen if you don't give up. Persevere.
We love that. And that's been a big theme for us, the perseverance. And like you said, if it was easy and it came to you at the drop of a hat, you probably wouldn't want it anyway, because you may not felt like you've deserved it, or it doesn't seem like or feel like it would pay off. So like you said, if you got to put in a little bit of work for it, so be it. It'll make it that much more rewarding. And Antonio, thank you so much for coming on. I want you to just stay a few minutes after the show. I have a few questions for you. But if there's somebody watching right now and they want to get in contact with you, or maybe just have a question or two, or maybe, who knows, they want to donate to make the Zorro or your next season 2 happen, where can they go to reach you at?
Okay, I've got Facebook. It just got hacked recently, but I'm building it back up again. It's Antonio McKay at Facebook. And then my Instagram is Antonio McKay Official. I'm also on Twitter, even though I hardly ever use it, with X now, right? It's called X now, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically, and also the website is www.sangrenegratheseries.com. That's a website. And that's basically it. You can contact me through, I'm easy to find.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, sharing your story. We really do appreciate all the golden nuggets that you've dropped, and really have instilled in us that theme of perseverance, to always keep going, no matter where it is that you are in your life. If you're at the top, good, stay on the top. Make sure that you're keeping moving and grooving and doing everything that you need to do in order to stay there. And if you're not, then take all the right steps and persevere through whatever is going on in your life. So to my Positivity Posse, thank you so much for being here. You guys are
one more thing. Can I
Yeah.
Real quickly, I just want to say thank you to Beatrice for linking us, you and I, up. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And Terrell for linking me up with Beatrice. And then my manager, Paula Ann, for helping me out and everything. There you go.
Awesome.
I think I thanked everybody, except my dog. She's mad at me right now. But
that's the most important one. How didn't you get your dog first?
Yeah, I know. He was like, come here.
So everybody, here she, and what's her name?
Yep. This is Lady.
Hey, Lady. You said she was mad at you. She's giving you kisses.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, she's not mad at me anymore because I lifted her up. So
there it is. Well, everybody, Antonio thanks you. I thank you, and Lady thanks you as well for being a part of this program for today, the episode. Next week we're going to do a holiday special, just to kind of revisit some of the guests that we've had in the past and catch up with them to see what they're doing. And everybody, please have a safe weekend. And I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV. So everybody be safe, and we'll catch you next week. Thank you again, Antonio. And thank you everybody for watching. Peace.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Weekly Dose of Dano. To my appreciated member of my Positivity Posse, I trust that you're leaving with new insights and a spark of inspiration. I trust that you enjoyed our time together. So hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts in a review. It would mean the world to us to hear what you have to say. Stay connected and follow me on social media at Dose of Dano to solidify your role in the Positivity Posse and to get your extra dose of motivation and positivity. Remember, the journey doesn't end here, so keep shining, keep growing, and implement everything that you've learned. We'll catch you next time on Weekly Dose of Dano. Take care and stay positive.